council work session to order. Let's see, call the roll.
Yes, Councillor Mayton.
Present by video.
Councillor Smallwood.
Here.
Councillor Sheldon.
Excuse.
And Councillor Walker.
Here.
Councillor Exner.
Here.
Councillor Hokinson.
Here.
Mayor Pulliam.
Here. All right. Welcome, everybody. Just a reminder, we got a hard stop at 7. So while we're all excited about this, let's just try to remember that. We are discussing the community campus park development plan or receiving an update on that. Jordan, will you please kick us off?
Yeah, I'm going to hand it over to Michelle to do introductions.
Well, good evening, Mayor,
Presentation.
Council. Thank you for this opportunity. I had a little bit of an introduction where I was going to talk about some of this public engagement that we've been doing since the last time we've met. We're here to talk about the community campus park improvements. And I'll summarize that really quick. So we've had 2 surveys, an open house. We've sent flyers out to 9 schools. It's reached 3,937 emails. I presented at the Northwest Trail Lines Park Board annual meeting. We had several skate park and bike park pump focus groups. And then we sent 2 mailers directly to the surrounding neighbors. So the first mailer was 104 to 140 neighbors. The second one went out to 112 neighbors, just reminding them to attend the open house this week. We did 4 social media posts, and then we purchased advertisement with Pamplin Media, guaranteed 40,000 impressions. This is why. And then, excuse me, and then we actually presented to the park board and we held a project advisory committee meeting. So since we met with you guys last, we've been busy. And then this week we do have our second open house, and from 3 to 4, we're doing an in-person focus group for the pump track and the bike park. And then from 5 to 7:30, we'll host our second open house, and that will be at the community center. And then afterwards, from 7:30 to 8:30, there's a scheduled in-person skate park and focus group meeting. And then as we move forward, we'll be back in front of the council again, March 20th. And between now and then, there's multiple other focus groups. We're going to go to Sandy Vista. We're engaging the seniors at the senior center. We'll be at the Mountain Storm Jamboree. And then March 8th, we'll be back in front of the Parks Board. We'll have another meeting with the project advisory team. And then on our March 20th, we'll ask the council to take a look at our concepts and help us pick a preferred concept. And we'll be applying for the grant April 1st. So we've got a lot of work in front of us, but we've also done a lot of public engagement prior to this. So tonight we have with us Langdon Hansen and American Ramp Company, and they're going to present on a general overview of our guiding principles as a reminder. Then we'll review the data from the surveys and how the first open house went. And then we'll learn a little bit about site constraints and opportunities. And most excitingly, we'll get to 3 concepts that the council will be able to take a look at, provide feedback, and as we move towards our preferred concept for the parks plan. So without further ado, I flew through that, but I'm gonna hand it over to Langdon Hansen and American Ramp Company.
Thank you. Welcome.
Great, thank
Good to
you.
see guys in person.
Yeah, it's nice to see you all tonight. Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to present where we've been in the last month and also where we're going in the coming weeks. My name is Kurt Lango with Lango Hansen Landscape Architects. This is Brian Martin from our firm, and I believe that we have Maddie, a person from American Ramp Company that will be joining us in the presentation as well. As Rochelle mentioned, we do have a lot to cover tonight. And I think a lot of exciting things, and I know that you went through the whole list of the public outreach. We've just been really thrilled with the amount of feedback that we have gotten to date from both the community of Sandy, but also the areas beyond in terms of what they would like to see for this park. We have a presentation that we'll kind of go through, and Brian, if you can go to the first slide. As Rochelle mentioned, we did have our public open house last month. We felt it was very well attended, and it was really nice to meet people one-on-one and really talk through what their goals, what their vision of the park was. And next slide. We had about 30 to 40 participants that showed up at that meeting, but also there was a whole other online presence, and both for the park itself and then also for the skate park and pump track. We had about over 400 participants in that survey. And so we were really excited by the number of responses. There was a number of also responses from the skate park and pump track survey as well. And then just some of the highlights that we heard, definitely people wanted to use the park to play and recreate. There was a lot of interest in nature play, as well as certainly the skate park and the pump track. And then a couple points people were hitting on both with the survey, but also in person, was having an inclusive park for people all abilities and ages. We have a short summary here of some of the highlights of the survey, and I'll kind of go through that, and then I'll turn it over to Maddie. But relaxing, gathering, playing, enjoying nature were all the top of the list. Those were very important for people as they went through that online survey. Then we delved into a little bit more specifics in terms of how you wanted to relax and gather in the park, certainly enjoying nature, having walking paths, having a shelter for small events, and then also smaller gathering spaces were at the top of the list in terms of how people wanted to interact with the park. We also talked about the natural elements. We know how just the scenic beauty that surrounds that park is really important to the people of Sandy. They really like the forested areas. Those are very important. And if we do plantings, that they are primarily native. And then we wanted to kind of hint at what sort of play area you would like to see. They wanted both a nature play, but perhaps some sort of equipment that would combine both nature and standard. Then the last question that we asked, or one of the last ones, was which park feature was the most important? And here we allowed them to pick a number of options, so they add up to more than the total responses. The top 5 were restrooms, the skate park, walking paths, and the pump track, and followed by parking. And certainly I think right up there too was natural areas, the playground, and a potential bike playground as well. And then with that survey, we always like to get a little bit of hint of the demographics of people that are answering that survey. I think this is all pretty self-explanatory, but important information to have. So with that, I'll turn it over to Maddie to go through the.
Awesome. Thank you, Kurt. So kind of as Kurt mentioned, we did a separate survey from the overall park survey online, and we had a great response to that as well. In total, we had over 580 participants. We went ahead and filtered that data down to just participants who had a Sandy zip code. So that came out to 221. Rochelle has the data for both sets. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, it's available. I will say both the data kind of was trending the same way. So that was kind of cool to see. But so what you'll see tonight, this is just focused on those 221 participants. So similar to how Kurt was mentioning, we just have some general stats here about age groups. Next slide. How people are going to be getting to the park. It's kind of cool to see 23% are actually going to either ride their bike or skate there. How often they're going to be using the park, and then what times of the day. So we really see kind of after 3 p.m. until, you know, daylight's gone is the preferred time to use the skate park and pump track facility. And then we just kind of wanted to know what kind of wheels they're going to be using on the skate park. So here you'll see a cool breakdown of, you know, obviously mostly skateboarders, but there's going to be a lot of bikers. There's a couple people with skates and scooters. So always fun to see that data. And then at the open house and the online survey, we presented 3 options just to kind of gauge what style of park the participants are interested in. And you can see option C is the clear favorite. So that's a nice mix of street and transition. And there's also some nice green space within the park, which some users called out. So that's really helpful as we move into designing the park for Sandy to kind of have a starting place on what the community wants to see. Next slide, thank you. And then here, this is great info, the terrain ratio. Again, that's just going to dictate if the users want more street or transition. You can see the majority want to see that 50-50 split. You know, I'd say most people want more street to transition, just looking at the data if you lump it all together. So again, with the options we're putting together, it's really being driven by this information that we got from that online survey. And then we asked specifically about the pump track. You know, we want to know how people are going to be using that, if it's, you know, bikes or skateboards. So it's a pretty good split. And that'll just help us with how we're designing it. You know, if skaters are going to be using it, we want to create it in a way where they can have fun and enjoy it. We also asked a ton of other super detailed, specific questions that just all went into how we're going to design the park. So again, if you're interested in the really minuscule details, Rochelle has all that information. So.
And what I'll mention is the next survey that we're going to be doing that will come out this Thursday is we're actually combining both the park and the skate park together in a single survey, which we think will help even elicit more responses in terms of the park design and the skate park itself. I did want to just, I won't go through this each item, but I did want to let you all know that we did respond to a couple of the comments that we had last time from the council that was creating a year-round recreational opportunities. That's one thing that we heard from you that you wanted to add, and then also developing a sustainable park. So in addition to the guiding principles that we shared before, we did add those two things. And this continues to be kind of a working document. As a prelude to the options, we just wanted to share this image with you. You know, with all sites, there are certainly opportunities, constraints, and you try to make those constraints things that become opportunities. This site is no exception. A couple things we just wanted to point out is one is the amount of topographic change that we have on site. As you well know, you have the plateau and that lower area. Harkening back to the idea of accessibility and inclusivity, we feel it's important to provide ADA access down. So we have to navigate about 20 feet of slope in there. So we need to figure out creative ways to create those accessible paths as they get down within that area, and then how they interact with all the other elements such as parking and play areas on pump track and skate parks. The other thing is the imaginary but important line is the UGB boundary, and there's certain uses that we cannot do within that area that can only happen south of the park. So that's certainly something to keep in mind. And then we will be required to do some off-street improvements as part of this project. And then also thinking about ultimately the sandy net access as well. So these three options, I want to preface it by saying that the work that we've been doing with ARC has been integral. It's been very collaborative. We've gone back and forth on thinking not necessarily how each part can be a success, but how the whole part can be a success together. So these schemes all represent the collective work as well as with city staff. What I'll do is I'll kind of take you on a quick kind of whirlwind tour of it. I'll go through each options and then we can come back and certainly open it up for questions and comments. The first option is we're calling the meander. And this is really, I think, kind of alludes to the Sandy River and the kind of river forms and how can you bring a more natural form within the park. We've done that both with the trail system, but as you can see, the skate park and the play area. What we're showing coming off of both Minnick and Scenic Street here is entries into about a 40-car parking lot. So in addition with the 40 cars, we'll have about 10 to 15 parking spaces on Minnick as well. As you enter the parking lot, there will be a drop-off zone, ADA parking spaces, and then you're met with this kind of nice kind of entry plaza area that would have a restroom and also a shelter and perhaps some picnic tables. And that all sits on that kind of upper plateau. As you make your way to the path that kind of winds down to that lower area, we have a play area that is nestled into the hillside. You can imagine really taking advantage of that with maybe a hillside slide, certainly nature play equipment, and that then gets you down to that lower area. You see on number 9, the kind of remnants of that kind of sloped area that you have right now, which we would think would be ideal for watching the skate park, which is situated down below. So that has the bowls and the transition. And then as you move northward, you see then the pump track as it hugs this kind of meandering trail. As with all these schemes, we'll have benches, picnic tables, and then certainly open lawn areas.
Right.
Yeah, just a quick question. So on these schemes, the top, all of a sudden the topographic, the slopes and everything
Yes.
have cut are you just moving a lot of dirt and
Yes.
pushing it around?
Yeah.
Okay, because right, the bowl there is currently part of the hillside, and then the stuff that's in between the bowl and the parking lot is
Mhm.
fairly flat, and now it's
Yeah.
all sloped. And so
Yeah.
just with these different plans, I was trying to kind of get a sense for
Exactly. Yeah.
how you were altering the landscape, the topography there.
Yeah, we'll be manipulating the grades and some options more than others. And again, it's twofold. One is to get that ADA path coming down, but areas that we can take advantage of, how you have seating areas, you recapture the old sledding hill that you have down there. So we've been beginning to think about each option and how it could be slightly different.
Thanks.
Sure.
I didn't even think about sliding.
You'll notice on this option 2, we have an additional shelter down in the south west corner, and then certainly that trail to the new trail system that winds down to the Sandy River Park is important as well. So with this, I'll maybe turn it over to Maddie just to talk a little bit about the skate park and the pump track.
Yeah, so as Kurt kind of mentioned, we've got 3 options we're going to go through. So our team has been working on 3 custom designs on what that skate park pump track combo could look like. I want to be very clear that what we're showing you tonight is going to change drastically based on, our future meetings with the skate park focus groups. But this kind of gives you a good idea of how we've been working back and forth with Lingo Hansen just to identify the spaces and get some ideas on paper so that the community can start to envision what the park will look like. So in this option 1, the skate park kind of here on the right side, this really represents that 50-50 transition to street style. Again, this is super high level. We're working on a lot of cool custom features that we've been talking to the skaters about. So hopefully here in the next couple of weeks, we'll have those updated designs to present to you. But so this is option 1. You'll see there's kind of like a snake run in a bowl. So those are the transition style features. And then everything else is that plaza and street. And then kind of on the left, kind of top side, you'll see how the skate park actually ties into that pump track. So it's a great way for skaters to be able to flow off the skate park into the pump track, or for bikers just to use the pump track. And again, we're kind of with this option utilizing that natural slope within the site so that, you can kind of lounge onto the lawn there and overlook the skate park and pump track and have a really cool view of everything that's going on. With all of these designs that we'll show you tonight, the skate park is around 13,000 square foot. So that's really our baseline on kind of where we're starting with this process. And as we move through the community engagement and understand priorities, we'll update the skate park to reflect that. But all 3 options are around that 13,000 square foot. And then the pump tracks range from, 13,000 to 15,000 square foot. And we're also working on some alternate bike areas. So either some jump lines or skills courses for more traditional mountain bike style.
I'll just mention just ever so briefly, as part of each of these options, we've gathered some images. Certainly, it may not look exactly like this, but it begins to give you a feel for some of the amenities. So for the second option, which we're calling that plateau, We've slightly adjusted the orientation of the parking lot, but it still has 40 spaces. And here the sole entrance is off of Meinig, and you circulate around. With this option, it has a slightly larger entry plaza along with a shelter that has a combined restroom along with it. And then number 4, we're showing a raised seat wall that might have a pioneer garden. Thinking of ways that we can help elaborate and recall the history of Sandy. And then with this one, instead of the play area being tucked into the hillside, it is actually kind of situated out into this plateau. And you can see with all those lines, which are just slightly to the west of the play area, we've actually kind of pushed out that embankment a little bit. So it's still a nice kind of gathering space, a sledding hill, but it responds to the flow of the play area in this entry plaza. What we've done with this kind of winding paths, it creates a smaller loop trail to the north side, along with access to the Sandy River Trail. And then, as you can see, we've shown the skate park and the pump track really kind of nestled into the south hillside, thinking that we can take advantage of that hillside if there are events or happenings, large-scale events within these two facilities. It would be a great place to sit. And then, as Maddie alluded to, that kind of squiggly line that goes through the forested area, number 12, that would be a potential bike trail itself. And then just the images on here, we're just showing that kind of pioneer garden, ways that we can approach the nature play, a combo shelter and restroom, and then an overlook that was part of that concept as well.
You're gonna ship in the snow.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna make the snow.
It's coming tonight.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Kurt, about how big, it looks like your play area is about the same in both of those. About how big is that play area? Or do you have vision?
Yeah, it's about between 9,000 and 10,000 square feet right now. Certainly that will continue to kind of morph, but that's a placeholder size for right now.
Great, so this is our option 2 that we're showing. You'll notice that this model looks a little different than that top view that Kurt just showed. So again, these were developed a few weeks ago, and we've been working back and forth with Lango Hansen, so it's a work in progress. But this skate park option is going to be kind of more reflective of that 70% street style and 30% transition. It's good just to see what the community thinks about this. It leans heavy street. So we want to put that out there just to kind of see what response we get. And then again, another pump track option, the top view shows it a little differently than this, but yeah, again, same square footage is around 13,000 square foot, and then same for the pump track.
So with the last option, which we're calling the Meadow, with the previous 2 options, it was kind of a long rectangular parking lot. And so what we thought of is if we were to come off of Scenic, and actually the city code requires us to come off of the less classified street. So Scenic is a local street. Meinig is actually classified as a collector. Now, that's not to say that we can't come off of Meinig, but we'd have to go through a variance process. So we thought, well, if we just came off of Scenic, we could actually make that parking lot a little bit more compact. We still have the same number of spaces, but what it does allow us to do is to really bring that skate park feature closer to the front door, really almost similar to where it is right now. And instead of having one larger kind of plaza space, we end up kind of distributing those spaces throughout the park, including a lower play area, which would be kind of down at the bottom of that embankment, along with a shelter. And in order to navigate that slope, what you can see is we come off with a series of steps or stairs that get us down to that lower grade. And then there's this long kind of meandering kind of switchback ramp that kind of traverses and gets you down to that lower area. By moving that skate park up, we would though have the pump track that would be a little bit farther down So certainly there would need to be a connection between the two. Here, we're just showing a nice kind of large oval, which is kind of reminiscent of the track that you have out there right now. And again, with the future trail connection.
So my bias against this one, just to be blunt, is I worry that families have to go too far down for the young kids, the park. It's just not as accessible with this slope there, but this money.
Yeah, but you got that
My
cool
little
staircase.
Uh,
You got
yeah.
that cool staircase.
And the bathroom is at the mini plaza? Is that?
Yeah, the bathroom is number 3 and it's up there. We
Oh.
are going to be connecting into the sanitary sewer line up in that
Oh,
area. So the bathroom here is located. And I might mention just before Maddie talks a little bit about the skate park design is that if one of these options was the final option, it would be probably the first time in 30 years that happened. We expect
Yeah.
these to be both the skate park and things to be meshed together. We want to come up
So just
with a
really
plan that
concepts.
everyone wants to see, and it's picking the best things out of each one. So that's what we're excited about with this next conversation. And then the next slide shows just a little bit about some planting ideas. Play area, if it is down below, maybe there's a little bit more of a vertical element that you can see up from the parking lot. Certainly the stairs can have a little bit more of an organic feel to them, as well as the shelters. So with that, I'll turn it over to Maddie, if you could go through the last.
Yeah.
One more question on the.
Oh, sure.
So one of the big dot getters was the in-ground slides, embankment slides.
Yes.
Are those incorporated into all these? Because I know the issue of getting to the top of the slide for the ADA access and all that is a challenge.
Yeah, it is incorporated into option 1. But having said that, I think that if that's a strong desire, then certainly we can look at that with option 2 or option 3. So again, it's picking the best things of what you'd like, and then we can make that work.
Great. So option 3 obviously looks much different than what Kurt was showing you. These will be spread out to kind of show that skate path that Kurt was talking about. So hopefully on Thursday, we'll have these updated models that really reflect the landscape and have the top, kind of the topo built into it. But so this third option, again, is going to have more of that 50-50 split between the street style and the transition. And I kind of want to go back to what Kurt was saying. If the skaters or the community is like, hey, I really like skate park in option 1, but I like the layout of the park of option 3. That's awesome. We're going to take the best of all 3 designs and create one awesome custom skate park. So we're really using all 3 of these models just to kind of gauge interest in what does the community like? What do they like about each skate park and pump track? What do they maybe not like so much? And then we're going to take all of that information once we have that final site determined, and then we're going to really create that custom skate park and pump track that the community wants to see.
So I think with that, we've gone through each of the 3 options, and so we'd love to hear any comments or questions that you have. And then I think at the very end, we can just touch base a little bit on the schedule.
Comments. A couple of us had an opportunity to already kind of provide that, so I'd love to hear. Go ahead, Carl.
Just a variety of things. I've seen it once now, and then the second time around, I picked out a few more things in my head. And for me, I'm trying hard not to put too much of my thoughts into it, because I know there's a lot of conversation between here and digging dirt and all that. Mayor's mentioned already, one of the problems I see with the third alternative is to have the kids stuff way down low. It's tough to get to. So there's some of those kind of things that would probably be tough. One thing that I like a lot is being able to access the parking from 2 different areas, which I think is in the meander, but it's one of those things I was thinking about for buses. If this ends up being a regional type of a park, certainly we should be thinking about driving accesses of different vehicles. Who knows what we might be getting in there. I love the idea of the gardens and such, because a number of people that I talked to thought that the being able to see different things, art as well as the sanctuary kinds of plants and natives as well as beautiful gardens was always part of that piece of it. The piece that I thought that would be the toughest part would be try not to incorporate everything into the final project. Because you end up getting so much stuff and cramming it all in there because it's such a good idea. And we haven't done something like this, I don't think ever. It's just really the tough part will be to say no to some of these things because there's so many really good ideas.
And I guess, you know, my comments are, thank you for these concepts. They're all fabulous, I think. For me personally, you know, I lean a little bit, I lean a little bit more toward the meander. I think that one's super cool, but I'm really excited to see what the community comes back with, because at the end of the day, this is their park. And, you know, so for us making some of those decisions, I really want to see what the people who live here and then are going to utilize it, what they want. So thank you very much.
My only thing is it's the access from Pleasant. And I just want to make sure that to Don's point, when we all kind of had our earlier meeting, is that visually, we're thinking about how it visually works off of Pleasant and how accessible it is off of that Pleasant Street deal. I know later in our council meeting today, we'll be talking about different things that's going on there that will make it even more kind of prominent. But I think the visual aspect of how it interacts there is going to be at least important.
And I like that you put a placeholder in there for there, but obviously there's still a lot of figuring out how to jump over bike tracks and the terrain. And
Yes, still a lot of work to do, but we did hear that comment and we tried to respond at least with something to say, let's not forget about that. That's an important future piece.
Yeah.
I also raised a question on the meander in the earlier when we met before, and I'll raise it again, looking at it again. I do like the layout. It is my preferred layout as well. The challenge I have with it is we're putting the skate park first right in front of those houses. There aren't very many houses there along that road, but there are a few. And I would imagine that to be a noisier part of the park. There is a little bit of an elevation drop, but I mean, how well would that elevation drop and existing or new plantings actually help to noise?
Yeah,
There's no three of them.
that's a good question. I would, I think right now we're probably a good 120 feet away from those homes. Yeah, and down. And so our hope was both additional screening, additional planting, along with, you know, along with the grade change would help mitigate that.
It'd be worse. You could put pickleball there.
Well, and again, these are just,
Don't go there, man.
right? Well, and again, I mean, these are just concepts, right? So I mean, there's room, and I know you know that.
That was just
Yeah.
the one thing
Yeah.
that like the other related to this one that I was a little concerned about is that line of sight for police surveillance. Because that back corner, that north corner is pretty hidden at this point, the way it's sitting. Now, if we do something to open up the left of to the west of the bunker building to where there was an overview area.
I agree.
Pull in.
Oh, now you're dreaming though, but I'm with you.
No, I'm talking about for police pull in even.
Oh,
So,
got you.
But there actually is one. There actually is a great line of sight back there behind that building.
So that-
There's a
would be-
right of way.
exactly.
If you look at that plan, there's a right of way, right where the road, where that white square is.
I'm just saying we would have to
Yeah.
develop that as part of this to
There's
make
a
sure that
current
it's observable everywhere.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, there's a right of way just behind the school, but what is that, Park Street? But the end of Park Street that actually accesses property and the trail, there's a trail on the Parks and Trails master plan to link that park. Great job. I'm thrilled to see these plans. I'm so excited to see progress. I like what Carl just said about having the access on 2 streets, the buses and all that. I think getting a variance is a pretty easy thing to do. I don't think anybody up here would argue with you with a variance for that. But it does create, you know, a little bit better pathways and gives you more room for other things. And speaking of room, kind of we're building this for the next 20, 25 years at least. So, I've been known to say, go big or go home. But what my point about this is that it's really, this is an opportunity to really plan this out and in a way that meets our needs for the population in 25 years. So I want to make sure that we're able to right size things. And coordinated with that also is just I think what I was really hoping to see that, I think we just need to kind of clarify a little bit, is that space for kind of having, I think what we all want is facilities for beginners, intermediate, and advanced, whether you're talking about a playground or you're talking about the skate park or the pump track. And so having the room to be able to do that is really necessary. And so, what I see on this plan is, from a sustainability standpoint, is still a lot of, especially on some of them, more so, probably not so much on the meander, but some of them have, again, almost half the park is still just open grass that we have to water and mow. And from a sustainability standpoint, I guess if we're leaving it open for now and then maybe a phase 2 future, we might do something else, that's fine. But, I am excited to see, if we need to expand, I think the pump track at Gateway Green, which is really small and they have all these bike trails around it to kind of offer diversity, is like less than 15,000 square feet. The current skate park we have now, which is tiny, is 9,000 square feet. So what I'm hearing you guys say is, I think you said that the skate park you're looking at 13,000, and then the pump track at 13 to 15,000, which is even smaller than Gateway Green, which is one of the smaller ones around. So again, if there's some phasing that we need to do to, if we don't have enough money, I get that. But looking at phasing up to be able to go bigger in the future when we have more money, when we talked about urban renewal funds diet or grants or some other funding sources, I hope we can kind of plan everything now, because as you know, if it's in the plan, you can get the grants and the funding for it. So let's, so my preference would be go as big as we can now, and then go phase 2s, in the future with less of the open lawn. Because I think we've got I think we still would have lots of open lawn there, lots of seating, and I'm thrilled with the progress you guys have made. I'm really
Same
excited.
time, I don't mind open lawn either.
Yeah.
right?
I don't either.
So,
It looks great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just that that's what we've got in all our other parks. They're almost all open lawn.
we do
But
have-
how did we
Yeah,
arrive at
everything.
13, I guess? I'm sorry, what was the magic of 13,000 for those facilities?
So some of the preliminary costs that we were looking at, we took examples of surrounding areas that have been built. And ARC had some comparables. There was some information that we were sent today for Grand Line. And then there's some actual bids that have come in just recently in the last couple months. And we were looking at approximately for just an average of square foot to build a skate park at about $60 to $65 a square foot for a skate park.
You translate that into the effect of 13,000.
So I think, what is that, $806,000 ish? Is that close? Did I just do that in my head?
Hold on.
I can't help with
Yeah.
That would
that.
be maybe
I think
$800.
65 square
Yeah.
per foot is 850.
Wow.
Well, wait, no,
You must have called in somewhere.
no, I did.
I must have what?
If you
No,
must have
it's
called in
80
somewhere if you just pulled that out of your head.
845.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
845,000 for 13,000 square feet at $65 a square foot.
And then the pump track is being shown at around 20,000 square feet.
Oh, I thought she said 30.
Yeah, so just let me clarify that. So yes, we do have an option that could be the full 20,000 square foot pump track. After we met with the bike park focus group, they gave us a little bit of direction that they might want to see some options of a smaller pump track and then using that other square footage for those skills courses or more traditional mountain bike features. So we have a meeting with them again on Thursday just to kind of go through some examples. But again, just trying to listen to those focus groups in the community to see how they want that space utilized.
Yeah, thank you, Maddie. Because that's what I want to see is how the public wants this utilized, right? Not how we want it utilized. I'm not going to go use the skate park, I don't think, right? So, but I want to see, you know, the groups of people who have a vested interest in this stuff. I want to see, that's what I hope to get out of this. What do they want?
Right.
So,
One thing I liked about several of these plans is that there is some green space in there. I do like green, but it also gives me a chance to think about what could go in there next. You know, I didn't even know about pump tracks a couple of years ago. So to me, it could be some other kind of pickleball, right? Pickleball track courts in there the whole distance.
Are you gonna say art? Come on, you let me down.
Yeah.
Okay, art, several art packages all the way through there, interchanging. And all
it's
the
an
rest.
inside joke. You guys don't know. It's an inside joke.
You will see a 1% for the art coming up sometime in the proposal for the council to see sometime soon.
I just think it's great, guys. Thank
I
you
love
so
it.
much.
Thank you.
I did just want to address the comment about future expansion, because we have begun to think about that too. We don't want to do anything that could preclude some slight expansion of the skate park or the pump track. And we need to be cognizant of still providing some generous green areas. But we're thinking ahead to how we lay things out now so that there's minimal disruption if you do get funding in the future.
Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate the
Thanks.
conversation. Yeah.
Work.
All right, we'll go ahead and close our work session.
Thanks, Maddie.
Yeah, thank you, Maddie. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, did Chris have anything?
Oh, Chris, did you have anything? I apologize.
No, that's all right. I just wanted to say thank you to them for presenting, gave some great options there. I too like the meander, the best option. The only other question I had that I don't think was mentioned was in the winter season in these parks, are there going to be features that are going to be year-round use, or is it just going to be daytime summer use, right? Is there, when it snows 2 inches, is there going to be a hill big enough to put a sled on if you're a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, right? And is there going to be activities used for full season?
Yeah, we heard at the public open house from a couple of the neighbors about the embankment that you have right now is a really popular kind of sledding hill. So we've kept that. I think we've made it actually maybe a little bit better. And so yeah, that's top of our mind is where we can take advantage of those kind of natural features for year-round activities. Definitely.
What about a tow road?
And then I have one last question for the green space that was mentioned several times. How wide is it, and what's the length of it? Just because I'm thinking as a football player or a wiffle ball player, and people get out there, is that big enough for an unorganized sports team to get out there and have a flag football game on a fall day? Or is it big enough for that?
It is, and it varies from option to option, but anywhere from the option 2 with the smallest screen space, so it's maybe 250 feet by 250 feet. And then in the other 2 options, it's closer to 500 feet long and a couple hundred feet wide. So it's a pretty significant amount of green space.
I think a football feels like 150 by 320 or something, but yeah, that's good. Thank you.
We are going to put a par 3 on there.
There you go.
I'll just chime in really quick about the all year use question. There's some great videos online from Port Angeles of the community actually snowboarding the pump track. And we have a pump track in the Ozark area that I saw some people using tubes to go down the whole pump track. So technically, yes, you can use the pump track with the snow.
If I can snowboard in that pump track or that skate park, I'm in. Yeah.
Marianne, I've seen it.
That's what I wanted for you. So.
All right, thank you guys. Really appreciate the presentation.
Thank you so much.
All right, we'll convene at 7 o'clock.
All right.
Call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everybody. Tonight's city council meeting, we will be starting with public comment. Then we'll have response from our staff to the previous meeting's public comment, specifically on the Mount Hood Birthing Center, as well as Bill Leslie's testimony that he provided. We'll then move to our consent agenda as our city council meeting minutes from our February 6th meeting, as well as our appointments to the planning commission. Under ordinances, we do have a public hearing tonight on Sandy Municipal Code, Chapter 10 amendments. So if you're here to testify for that, please don't testify during our public comment. There will be an opportunity during that public hearing. Under new business, we have the Cedar Ridge vacant building demolition and site preparation. Then we'll round up our evening with a report from our city manager and our committee and council reports. With that, Jeff, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Counselor Mayton,
Present by video.
Counselor Smollett.
Here.
Counselor Sheldon,
Excused?
okay, and Counselor Walker.
Here.
Counselor Exner,
Here.
Counselor Hokinson. Here. Mayor Pulliam.
Here. I'll start by entertaining any proposed changes to tonight's agenda. Yes, sir.
Would it be possible for me to also respond to the Mount Edward Center item?
Oh, yeah, absolutely at that time. Yeah,
Thank you.
sure. All right, so moving ahead, we are to public comment. So again, there's an opportunity to testify on the SMC Chapter 10 amendments that will occur later on the agenda. So right now, council does welcome any comments on any other matter at this time. If you're attending the meeting in person, I do have some cards that were filled out. Jeff, we don't have anybody that submitted online, correct?
That's correct.
All right, so I'll call individuals up here. Please state your name and address for the record. You'll be provided 3 minutes for public testimony, and Jeff will provide a 20-second warning. First individual is Michael Case. It's always like, oh, man. I know, I was at a Clackamas County Commission with hundreds of people, and they go, first up, Mayor Pulliam. I thought, oh, shoot. Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm no good at speaking, so
no problem.
but I'll try
Go ahead.
to. I'm Michael Cades. I'm here to support and skate park aspect in the new adventure of what's being talked about and being built. I have a business here in Sandy, the board shop, 39090 Pioneer, just right down the road. So I'm just wanting to put forward as a business owner, of course, excited and enthusiastic about anything that could participate in. Of course, I've got a small background history of, personal and professional aspects in that industry. And I think it's great that something new can be done for the kids. I see the kids in the shop all the time. They got their rainboard, they got their skateboard, so I think it'll be phenomenal for them and, very plus in their lives. So I think it's be good to look to the future, skateboarding is, heck, it's an Olympic sport. So I think Sandy could not necessarily become, a place on the map, but it is a great stopping point, for anyone coming through. We are the gateway to Mount Hood, as we all say. So being a skateboarder and a business owner, that'd be great. And I know from talking to other people that pit stops will be made, and and Sandy's a growing community. So I'm just here to help or do whatever I can.
Hey, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Don't sell yourself short. You did fine public speaking.
Yeah, great. Next up is Adam Nilsson. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Adam Nilsson. I've lived in Sandy for just going on 2 years. I came from Baker City, where I ran an organization called the Baker City Skateboarding Association, keeping the skate park clean and advocating for expansions, skatable spots in town, overall visibility and advocacy. And so I'm here in order, the only criticism that I have as far as the process of the idea for the new skate park is that my wife is on the parks board And from the moment we were in town, I've been really on top of things, like trying to be involved with like what's going to go on with the skate park, what's going to go on. And it felt a little bit like the first opportunity that there was to have input or get a look at the project. It was pretty far along and some decisions had been fairly firmly made. With that in mind, when I help my wife with her scientific research, there's a rule that I'm not allowed to offer criticism without solutions. So we have organized and are formalizing our organization, Skaters of Sandy. And in the future, we will be your liaison for the community. And Mike Kays has agreed to be our initial president. And so I'm excited about it. And I think it's too soon to have any frustrations or any real concerns. I just want to make it clear that we're here and we're excited about it and we're well connected with people who are deeply involved in the industry of skating and skate park building. So let's do it right. Thank you for your time and service.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
I don't think any of us disagree.
Yeah, Rochelle, please just make sure we are engaging. And I know we have a lot of opportunities to do that coming up as reference. Thank you so much. I have Scott Minty. Welcome.
Hey, everybody, council. My name is Scott Minton, go by Minty. I live on April Parkway with my partner. We moved to Sandy because it's a great town. I'm not hood ski patroller and spent a lot of time driving through, and I'm happy to be here now permanently. So picking up on what Adam was talking about, just wanted to kind of introduce ourselves to you guys. Some of you know us and some of you don't. We are Skaters of Sandy. We're a group of residents, we're skaters, business owners, parents, homeowners, taxpayers, voters. Why us? Why are we talking to you? Our founding members who are all here tonight. Between us, we have over 100 years of collective knowledge and commitment to true skateboarding. We're all skaters, probably till the day they put us in the ground. Our mission statement, we're just kind of putting this together now. This is kind of in response to this amazing opportunity. Like Adam said, we aim to provide a unified voice for the skaters of not just Sandy, but the surrounding area. I know anything about skateboarding that I would tell non-skaters, we are a worldwide community. Every skater, it has brothers and sisters everywhere if they roll on four wheels. Skaters make a habit of traveling and skating skate parks, especially parks that have unique features. We'd never know where Haley, Idaho was, except we know they have a giant full pipe. You know, people are not going to Estacada. Well, you know, Estacada has a great park. But the point being, people will come. People are already coming here, but they're passing through. And we want to make Sandy Skate Park a destination point. And we have an opportunity to do that here. Our goals, like Adam said, we want to serve as a conduit between the skaters, city officials, skate park designers, architects, and the fabricators. We aim to provide design feedback that reflects the needs of the local skaters, but again, like experienced skateboarders who've seen it done right and seen it done wrong. And we want to do it right here. We're going to advocate for the best possible allocation of funds and land for this skate park portion of the CCP, including the design, fabrication, and then operational stages. Once this is going, we plan to be involved, trying to see it maintained. We know you guys want to do activations, have contests there. We can help you create something that is, like Lango Hansen was talking about, an integrated park. That skateboarding is not just put in a box in the corner, but it's incorporated throughout the park, along with biking. And the idea of having tiered beginner, intermediate, and expert areas is a pipe dream for most people because they take a plot of land and try to plop it all in there. I think we have 10.5 acres here. Right now, we're talking about a 13,000 square foot skate park. That's like 0.29% of an acre. We could go an acre and it would be amazing. We could go 2 acres and not detract from the rest of the park. And it would be a world-class skate park. We aim to hold you guys accountable to making the elected officials, municipal agencies everybody accountable, transparent, fair, and equitable execution of this park. According to the ARC survey, twice as many skaters as bikers will be utilizing the park. It's 161 to 81 skaters to bikers who filled out that survey. The majority of participants, 54%, responded that they'll skate on the pump track. That's skateboarders using the bike track. Skateboarding is the #1 activity that's going to happen in this park. People, we have parks all over the city, people can go walk and go on the swings, and it'll be beautiful. But this is about skateboarding, and we really should treat it as such. I know I'm running out of time. We are going to advocate, and you're going to hear me saying this again and again and again until everything's signed and we're digging in the dirt, that we need to increase the size of the skate park from 10 to 13,000 square feet. Our 9,000 square foot skate park is insufficient for the town as it is now. If we're talking about Sandy 2035 vision, this town almost doubling in population, we need a big park that's going to serve that community. And we want to petition, it sounds like, I don't even have to ask for this, that I can just get it. I was looking for the poll results from both ARC and JOA, because in our meeting with ARC, they said, and Maddie just mentioned it again, that they had almost 600 answers, but then all of that information was just whittled down to people with the Sandy zip code. We really think that that's not a fair reflection of the skateboard community. I think if we look at those numbers and get all the voices to the table, you're going to see that little line of skateboarding on that chart almost double in size. So I'd like to, before we get too far down the road with Lango Hansen, before they put tons of time and effort into, creating a flow that works for everybody, let's think about making the skate park bigger. We can find more money. Let's build the park that we want, not the park that we can afford now. We're paying $500,000 to get this thing designed. We can find more money. Let's design a park for the future. So that's about it. I'm going to leave all these papers here for you guys as kind of our platform. You can get in contact with us here. And I also have an article just found in the paper about Silverton Skate Park and how they kind of are expanding their park to include more beginner areas and how they did it and the amount of money that they're paying for it. So I got a copy for each.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, next up is Michael Shearer. Okay. Welcome.
How's it going, guys?
Good, thank you.
Mike Shearer, 18702 Van Fleet. Been skateboarding for 35 years, 30 which have been in Oregon, helped design and build parks all over Oregon. Really excited about this. This is something these kids need in the town. All the kids I meet here at the local park, I take my son there, the best kids I ever met. I've skated skate parks all over the world. And you run into some rough kids. These kids here are great and they need it. What I'd like, following up with Minty, that's a tough one. Yeah, the square footage of the skate park needs to accommodate all skill levels, and the current proposed skate park square footage kind of don't meet those requirements. So we need enough square footage to have beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So everyone has a chance and make it accessible to all abilities. We formed this group to represent the youth skateboarders in town like my son. And while the overall designs are great, we want to reiterate our priorities as skate park riders and athletes. And we just want to make sure it's done right. So appreciate your time, guys. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, so just how big of a park are we talking about? In your guys' mind?
40,000 square foot.
Okay.
That would be.
No,
ideal.
it's a serious question.
We're gonna have to negotiate down.
But that would be your goal. That would be your.
Usually, Newburgh says 29,000 square foot.
It's just so safe. It's so much safer to have space.
Yeah.
And have a place where people can learn and other people can shred.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm so sorry, I know I'm speaking out of turn. I forgot to say thank you. I wanted to begin with thank you to Rochelle, Parks and Rec. Thank you to Art and Mike Hansen. Thank you for you guys doing the work together. Thank you.
Appreciate it, you guys. And thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks
Really
for talking.
appreciate it. All right, and then we have a response to the previous public comments from our last meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. So the letter from the council to Legacy Health and also the director of Oregon Health Authority was drafted and sent out, I think immediately following, I think Jeff scrambled to
Been
put
about
that
24
together.
hours. Thank you for your work on that, Jeff.
Yeah, so thank you to Jeff for putting that together. Thank you, council, for reviewing that. And then I do not believe we've received any response.
Do we know?
What?
No.
I don't know. I never heard exactly who it all went to.
There was a
This
list
is-
there on that
was there?
top
Catherine
left.
Pereira.
Oh, never mind then.
Yeah, there's a, yeah,
And Oregon Health Authority was one of them.
Okay.
That's right.
And executives at Legacy Health.
That's right.
And I believe Councilor Hokinson shared a response that he received from the Oregon Health Authority today. Is that right?
Yeah, I wanted to summarize that if I could. Because honestly, well, two parts. First of all, three of us were able to meet. Lori and Rich and I met with Mount Hood executives, including Baha, who's the president of the hospital there in Gresham, the chief medical officer, chief nursing officer, and then a corporate person from their public and government engagement office. I don't remember names, but that's the roles they played. They presented a perspective of the shutdown that basically, to characterize it, would be an unfortunate series of events that seemed to be, from my take, triggered by some negotiations driven by finances. They're losing a lot of money, like a lot of hospitals in the area right now. And their reaction to it was to shut down the birth center because of not enough births to sustain the money that it's bringing in. So they pitched that story, and they had an alternate model involving more midwifery. Staff didn't like it, walked off. They lost their OBs, and then they decided to put their foot down and said okay, we're going to shut the doors in March. When we asked them, and we asked them specifically about what was the certification process that the waiver they had to request, they didn't have an answer. They even went so far as to say they didn't know what the process was. They hoped to submit a request this week sometime, but they didn't know, and they admitted they'd never done one before, which I found to be a little alarming. Parallel to this effort, I appealed to the governor's office and also to OHA to find out what the process is, because it's not available online. You can't just go query it and find it out. Today, I finally got a response back from the OHA director's office, and I think Legacy is in a world of hurt. I'll just start with that. Because the waiver rule, and I'm reading from their writing now, says if a hospital wants to not comply, first of all, going back, the hospital licensing requirements by our statute, state statute states that hospitals classified as general purpose shall provide at least general medical, maternity, and surgical services. Everything else is a waiver. So they got licensed, if you will, certified, which to me is like a contract with the public, that's what they're going to provide. And then the waiver rule says if a hospital wants to not comply with the rule, it can ask for a waiver. That includes the rule required them to provide, including providing maternity services. A waiver request has to be submitted in writing, but blah, 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 blah. Identify the special circumstances relied upon to justify the waiver, identify the alternatives that were considered, if any, and why the alternatives were not selected. And get this, demonstrate that the proposed waiver is desirable, sub-bullets, to maintain or improve the health and safety of the patients, which we've proven in their own words, they never refuted that. It makes it riskier. 2, to meet the individual and aggregate needs of patients, doesn't do that. And 3, shall not jeopardize patient health and safety, and we've shown that it will. So they failed all 3 tests. More disturbing is that Legacy in their phone call said, what's going to happen? They said, well, even if we don't get the certification, we're shutting the doors and we're just going on diversion. They have no plan to comply with their legal obligation. And so I just want to put that on the record. And I've already shared that with the media, and I'll continue to share that message and do my part to try to hold them accountable.
Thank you for your work on that, your leadership. Appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and then respond to Mr. Leslie's statements at the last council meeting. So as Mr. Leslie stated, I've been out there, I've toured it. AJ Thorne has as well. And I think engineer from Clackamas County, who we've been in contact with about the stormwater situation out there. So we appreciate you coming to council and voicing those concerns. And so AJ put together sort of our plan for responding to those issues. And again, we do think the majority of the water is coming from county roads. And so they need to be a player in this in some way. And I think as we work through the different options and what might be the improvements that need to be made, county needs to have some sort of role in that, given that they're county roads and there's water coming from both the county roads and also Shalimar, which is a city road. So we think it is likely that in 2010, we made improvements to Shalimar. We added a catch basin and an outlet, and I think that was in 2010. And there wasn't probably enough thought given into the stormwater flows and how that will impact the surrounding properties. So part of the plan of action will be to some long-term and also the short-term. So you probably care more about the short-term. And I'm not a stormwater engineer, but our operations guys will be installing, I guess, which is some kind of flow plug that should slow the rate of water and have the pipes operate more as a detention facility that will sort of manage more of the flow of the stormwater and rain events. So that's a short-term thing that I think, maybe can help slow the water that's accumulating on the property there. And then what ultimately needs to happen is getting a stormwater engineering consultant to look at the whole Shalimar drainage area and the Kelso road drainage coming off of Kelso and Bluff to see what capital improvements are needed to be made to bring it up to current standards. So that could lead to some budget, questions. As I mentioned before, we don't have any money in our stormwater fund, which is a concern, and we need to have a need for a master plan for that entire area, but also the entire city within our urban growth boundary to complete a master plan. So this study would possibly lead to identifying what are the capital improvements that we can make, and there could be some that we can actually do that are more affordable in the near term, which I think we're pretty hopeful about. And again, the county should be a part of that conversation because it could lead to conversations about making improvements to their facilities, drainage ditches and things along the county roads. And so ultimately, what needs to happen out there is a much more substantial stormwater facility where the water that's being captured off of Bluff and Kelso, Shalimar will feed into a facility probably around Jewelberry with development there in the future. And until we do the analysis and complete these master plan, a stormwater master plan, which the council is very familiar with utility master plans, we don't know, what that, will ultimately look like or how much it will cost and what kind of engineering, but that's what is needed to basically address this stormwater issue, but a lot around town. It's a long story in the short term, putting in that plug, and AGB working on a project to hire a consultant to do the study to see what other short-term but also long-term solutions are necessary. And then long-term is the master plan for bigger capital improvements. So we'll send you this write-up, Mr. Leslie, about what our commitments are and kind of the timing on that.
So we'll have and sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
but what's the timeline, especially on the short term with the plug?
If it's not in already, it should be any time now. It might be one of those things waiting for a part for a piece to get in there. If Ryan and his crews haven't been out there, I wasn't able to check today.
Building on that, is there some monitoring built into the short term and medium term?
I think we have some monitors.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
How much do you charge?
But yes, I mean,
Yeah,
we want to know if they're
having our
performing
folks
and
out
if they're
there.
helping. But like I said, we do believe that there is a connection between what happened in 2010 and, historically it appears through aerial photographs and vegetation patterns and everything that this is the natural pattern of stormwater that's happening out there ever since, the topography has been the way it is, and especially since Kelso and Bluff have been there too. So, but yes, this stormwater is being contributed to this issue from Shalimar catch basins and outlets.
Is this sort of sorry that we took so long to recognize our part in this? Or?
Yeah, and I mean, the problem is probably beginning worse too over time. As rain events get more intense and things like that. But and there's probably issues that came up probably after the project that's happened over time. But
Erosion and
And
whatnot.
what can we do to bring the county to the table?
So we probably need to get elevated a little bit, would be my guess, because we do, the response that we've gotten from the county as well. We didn't do anything before. We're not interested in doing anything. We don't have funding for this. Obviously, the county doesn't operate, municipal stormwater facilities like we do. But I think if we're going to be investing in making fixes that we think is associated with our rainwater or groundwater and stormwater off the Shalimar, then we think they should have a hand, in these solutions too.
So I'll work to maybe facilitate a meeting at the leadership level and try to rope some of you.
I'm certainly interested in that.
Okay.
No.
Huh? Okay, good to know. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I speak? Otherwise, I'll come back next time and then.
Yeah, sure. I'll provide you 3 minutes for testimony.
Awesome. I appreciate it very much. Yeah. Appreciate your indulgence. My neighbor, Mr. Zog, has provided some surveyor drawn maps, and I provided some of the maps that I provided before that provide some specificity. My name is Bill Leslie. I live at 37625 Southeast Kelso Road. The comment was made that there was not enough thought given to water when the improvements were made, and I think they were in 2012, but it could be 2010. I've looked at the engineering drawings and all the communication between us and Curran, which was the engineers. No thought or discussion was given to rainwater. It's not that not enough was done, but I've been through every page of the city's files and not a single thought was given to the fact that the city was going to direct water over private properties. Regarding this issue of moderating the flow, tentatively, none of us are interested and it's not part of the solution. Don't mind you doing it, although I hope you're not spending money on it. The reason is, remember the illustration that I gave you of a driveway or a street going across your front yard. You can't do anything with that because the city's using it to pass traffic across your property. Same thing here. If you slow it down a little bit, we still can't use our property. It's of no help. Literally. And I gave multiple explanations of how we'd like to use our property and we can't. We still won't be able to use any of it. So the reduction of speed of delivery is of no interest. One of the things that wasn't really mentioned regarding the real fix for this was when would it take place? And I think that based on conversations, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is that there might be some money spent on a plan starting next fall. And there might be a plan available 2 years later, and there might be money in it for 3 or 4 or 5 years later. That's not really a very good solution. Private property was taken for public use without proper thought. Another issue is the natural flow. That's been used many times. Okay, the natural flow is if you go down Shalimar, there are 8 houses on the right-hand side of the street or the east side of the street, and there are 7 on the west. The slope is from east to west. None of that water would have come down Shalimar and then made a 90-degree right turn and gone across Roland's property and my property. The natural flow would have been due east. Most of the water never would have reached my property, and it certainly would not have made what I estimated 8,000 square feet completely unusable for me. I can look at it, but I can't drive across it. I can't plant on it. I can't build on it. I can't do anything with it. So it's not a natural flow. It's strictly man-made, man-created, both as a result of original development of Shalimar, also Kelso, also, believe it or not, Berg, also Bluff Road, and it's all being directed across our properties. This is not natural flow. Water does not go due south, make a 90-degree right-hand turn and go across our properties. That's not a natural flow. This is 100% man-made, county and city.
20 seconds, Mr. Leslie.
Thanks. One question that I had is there a road sharing agreement between the city and the county whereby maybe the city maintains county roads that are within the city? If so, I'd like to get a copy of it. Because for them to say, we will, and literally this is what they said, we will not be part of any solution. The city of county will have to fix this. So this formal request, if there is a road sharing agreement, I would love to see it. I'm open to questions and I appreciate your indulgence with some more time.
I don't believe there is an agreement.
No, we don't have any jurisdictional maintenance on.
Who maintains county roads in the city? The county?
County.
The county does.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a great clarification. So if you have any questions, be glad to answer them. But the proposed solution really doesn't accomplish anything.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Well, thank you for the update from staff and then testimony from Mr. Leslie. All right, we're gonna move ahead in tonight's agenda to our consent agenda that has our city council meeting minutes from February 6th, as well as our planning commission appointments. Unless there's discussion, I'll entertain a motion to adopt our consent agenda.
I make a motion that we adopt our consent agenda for February 21st.
I'll second.
There's a motion from Councilor Walker and a second from Councilor Exner to adopt our consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye or give me a thumbs up.
Aye.
Nays or a thumbs down. Motion carries. Just would like to personally thank the folks appointed to our planning commission, Jeff, and for the process, and Councilors Walker and Sheldon for participating with me on that interview panel. I thought it went very well. With that, we will move ahead to ordinances for the public hearing. Oh, no, I just inundated the paper. Yeah, no, thank you. All right, I'm gonna open this public hearing for ordinance number 2023-05 at 7:32 p.m. I'll now call for Jordan to provide the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, guys.
In front of you tonight is ordinance 2023-05, and this would amend our municipal code, chapter 1008 and 1024, which would be establishing the recreational vehicle parking permit program and making some changes to our parking code. So this is, I think, the third meeting that we brought this topic in front of the city council. We had a work session, maybe a year ago about this proposal and this program, in addition to making modifications to our camping ordinance. Then we brought forward this proposed parking, RV parking program, I believe, in the summertime, where we got some council input on the ordinance, on the language, and some requests to make some modifications. So we've been working through those, working with the homeless task force, which includes Councilor Smallwood and Councilor Sheldon, on refining the program per the public comment and per the council's conversation and direction. And so now we're bringing back those modifications with this ordinance that we're looking for your adoption tonight. The changes that we made to the proposed program from the last iteration was including a provision where residents of a dwelling that own an RV can park it for up to 12 hours without asking for a permit. And this is really to accommodate loading and unloading, for example, parking there in the morning, loading up your vehicle, and taking off late in the day, or, parking it and loading it up and taking their trip the next day. So the 12 hours was, I think, a reasonable amount of time for someone to be able to park it for a day. And then we maintain that it's a 72-hour permit. And of course, a permit will be free, and we'll just use our website, web form, to be able to log those and track those. And tracking to be done likely by code enforcement on permits that have been issued. The idea also is that they can renew permits 2 additional times and up to 6, and have up to 6 permits per year. So hopefully this will able to accommodate people that may have longer stays or want to park their RV in front of their home more than just a few times a year. The other changes, we looked at the definitions. There were some questions about some clarity that we need to have on what is actually a trailer, or what's the difference between a utility trailer and 2-wheel trailers and things like that. So we cleared up that definition under prohibited parking. And then also in section 10-2403, prohibited parking is a section on overnight sleeping would only be allowed if there is a permit that's issued that basically an RV parking permit was issued. So addressing that. So again, the purpose, as we talked about before on this new program and making these changes in our parking ordinance is, really comes from a standpoint of the work that we've been doing with the homeless task force on community livability issues. During council goal setting, we talked a little bit about that with code enforcement and some of the options that we're going to be exploring based on the council's goals, but also addressing the concerns that and calls that we get from residents about safety and sight lines and RVs being parked in neighborhoods for longer than 72 hours, but they're moving it. So it doesn't currently meet the code, or it currently complies with code because they've moved it, and, restart the clock on 72 hours and things like that. So I wanted to thank Councilor Sheldon, Councilor Smallwood for their help in working through this. Also our police department on their input and feedback. And then Emily Matasar with BEH, who helped kind of review this language and help us put together the ordinance. And staff recommends that the council approves the first reading of the ordinance, and if it's unanimous, move forward with the second reading of ordinance 2023-05.
Thank you. I'm going to move ahead. I would ask council to hold back any questions till after public testimony. All right, time for public testimony. Please try to avoid repetition if someone else has already expressed the same thoughts. It is sufficient to state that you agree with the statements of a previous speaker, even if that's all you say. For those joining us in person this evening, please raise your hand to indicate you would like to speak and then wait to be recognized. If you're participating online, click the raised hand button and wait to be recognized. If you're participating via telephone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized. I'll call on each person when it's their turn to speak. Each participant will receive up to 3 minutes to testify. Our city recorder, Jeff, will let you know when you have 20 seconds remaining. Our council rules do require that each person state your name and address for the record. I'm now calling on any testimony on the proposal.
Mayor, just look for any raised hands in the room. Seeing none, looking for any raised hands online. And Mayor, I do not see any raised hands.
Jordan, is there anything else you would like to add in a staff recap before we open for discussion?
No, Mayor.
All right, I'm going to call on a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
For a second.
Second.
There's a motion by Councilor Smallwood and a second by Councilor Hokanson to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye or give me a thumbs up.
Aye.
Opposed, nays, or a thumbs down. Motion carries. All right, we're open for discussion or questions for staff. Thank you for your work on this and taking our feedback from the work session that we had earlier. I think there's going to be a lot of community members that will be excited to see that our law enforcement officers and code enforcement have a little bit more ability to address some different issues in our community. With that,
Mayor, we do have a hand from Councilor Mayton.
oh, Councilor Mayton, please.
Thanks, Mayor. I just had kind of a technical question. Because this was talked about last year prior to me being on this council and me not having a lot of information on this, even though I do have some, would it be beneficial for me to abstain from this vote?
You're good to participate.
All right, then I have one question. Where did the 9 to 6:30 p.m. time come from?
That actually, I believe, without having it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure, is aligned with what the camping ordinance, the updated camping prohibited in certain places, time, place, and manner restrictions ordinance has as the time period for lawful sleeping.
Okay, that's that to be true?
I believe so. Yeah, and I understand it's. I mean, you're talking about a recreational vehicle. Can you determine if someone is sleeping in the RV at 8 p.m. and are you going to check? Probably not, right? So, if you have an RV parked there, if you have a permitted reason to, a permit to park your RV in front of your dwelling, I don't think there's going to be policing whether if you're sleeping at 7 a.m. or not.
Well, I understood the intent of it. I was just trying to figure out how it was enforceable and if it lined up with anything else that we had in the city that, because that just seemed like such an odd time frame for it. So, but if it lines up with that other code, then pragmatically, it makes sense to me. So I'm okay with it. That was my only question.
Thank you, Counselor. All right, I will now call for the first reading of ordinance 2023-05.
Hey, this is ordinance 2023-05, an ordinance concerning recreational vehicle parking on public streets and amending chapters 10.08 and 10.24 of the Sandy Municipal Code.
All right, is there a motion to approve the first reading?
I move that we approve the first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion by Counselor Hokinson and a second by Counselor Exner to approve the first reading of ordinance 2023-05. All those in favor signify by saying aye or give me a thumbs up.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, or thumbs down. Motion carries unanimously. I will now call for the second reading of ordinance 2023-05.
Yes, this is ordinance 2023-05, an ordinance concerning recreational vehicle parking on public streets and amending chapters 10.08 and 10.24 of the Sandy Municipal Code.
Is there a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 2023-05?
I'll make a motion to approve, and then just also, Chris, it is actually, the 6:30 to 9 is the camping ordinance, section B. So just confirmed it.
Great.
Thank you, Lori.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, there's a motion by Counselor Smallwood and a second by Counselor Mayton to approve the second reading of ordinance 2023-05. All those in favor signify by saying aye or provide me a thumbs up.
Aye.
Opposed, a nay or a thumbs down. Motion carries. All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you again for staff for your work on this. Greatly appreciated. All right,
Hey, question on this, now that it's passed?
Okay.
Well, were you gonna put this out in the next newsletter?
Yeah,
Thank you.
30 days.
Okay.
from
Yeah,
passage.
some sort of heads up that it's coming.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
all right, we're back on track. All right, moving ahead to new business, Cedar Ridge vacant building demolition and site preparation. Victoria.
Thank you, Mayor. This item really is a continuation of a decision the council made in May 2022 about draining the remaining water in the concrete pool shell, but also, we're at this stage now with the community campus park improvements, with the design work that's been underway there. And, in consideration of, the rising costs and opportunities now to maybe look at, pooling resources as we start construction on the park. The timing seems appropriate to start, talking about the site preparation and demolition of the existing Cedar Ridge buildings. And there's a number of reasons why, we're looking for council direction and approval to move forward with this project. One, it will take some time to design and contract and move forward with the site preparation. But two, we went through the effort over the last, in 2021 with the pool task force about the future of that facility, how much money it would take to actually bring it to a level that can be reopened. The council saw that report and made a decision to empty the pool of water, which really once we do that, the integrity of the pool shell, which the most recent reports we got it was already the integrity of the shell was already in question. And then, the task force also identified that the pool wasn't, really in line with what the vision for the community, the future aquatic needs were for the community. The intent, I think, it was always with buying the community campus or the Cedar Ridge buildings was to demolish the Cedar Ridge school buildings that, are quite aged, have a number of structural deficiencies, and the vision for acquiring that property was to construct something different and new. There is costs associated with keeping those buildings at the current site. Obviously, insurance, risk concerns. We do have standing net in one of the buildings that we would maintain. We call that the annex. Standing net's located there, and we've had to put up security cameras and fencing because of mischief, vandalism, things like that. There's been break-ins to those buildings, and it is a hazard. There's not power, there's not heat, there's glass, there's other things. So it is a concern for us to have those buildings continue to sit vacant. And I mentioned, already that this is the timing is aligning now where with the improvements we're going to make into the park project, there's going to be construction activity in the next, year or two. And I think given the lead time that we'll need to bring a consultant to engineer and design this demolition, that will take rerouting some utilities and water line infrastructure and other things that it'd be great to get the council's authorization to move forward with this. Earlier tonight, we had a work session with the renewal board with regards to the budget. This is an expense that we have been planning for. It's going to be built into the fund balance and in the budget for anticipating having to spend money on preparing the site at Cedar Ridge for future projects and development. So with that, Mayor, looking for your authorization and direction to move forward with this.
All right. With that, is there any questions or discussion, or is there a motion to move ahead with authorization?
One question.
Yeah, please.
Is the, you talked about next steps. It said staff has had preliminary conversations with PBS, which
Mhm.
initially responded to an RFP in
Yeah.
2020 to gauge the potential scope and cost of site prep project, blah, 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 include demolition, yada, yada. And it's something about 1.5 million. So is the next step to award the contract with that RFP or to issue another RFP, or?
It's a great
can you
question.
Clarify the next
Yeah.
step.
So we did recently restart conversations with them. They did supply an initial scope back when we first started exploring this in 2020. We had some questions about that scope. Ultimately we tabled it at the time, but I think we have the option of continuing negotiations with them, or with your direction, we'll probably have a more sit down with staff to figure out what's the best approach for doing this project in terms of the demolition. So it isn't there's some options we can do here, but
And then the other kind of just thought I had was that, again, these kind of, I'm looking at Rochelle, but, the whole community campus park part of the project is kind of connected
Mhm.
physically. And so you're talking about linking up and, doing something with the annex building. And trying to
The
get
old
my-
barn building.
No, Wrong part of town. But also my thought is just, also just being cognizant of whatever
Mhm.
their infrastructure need is. And, if there's the opportunity to kind of put the pipe, you're putting the pipe into the annex and then having a fork over to the beginning of the park or whatever. I just want to make sure that we're utilizing that rather than having to kind of go back and
Yeah.
do it later. Yeah.
And again, that's one of the reasons why we're here, is there's an opportunity that we could miss if we don't.
That's all I wanted to know.
Well,
Thanks.
Don and then Carl.
Two questions. I'm assuming the actual budget or the authorization for contract would come through the urban renewal board.
Yeah.
Okay, and then number two is, we had talked at one point about potentially preserving the timbers in some of the long spans, the woodlands and so forth, for potential reuse, either in a future community campus. Or do they have any place in a covered structure part of the new developing park and or skate park?
It's a great question. I'll take those notes. I think, again, one of the reasons why we did the RFP initially is we knew that it's not, believe it or not, it's not as simple as just getting a bulldozer and knocking it down, especially when you have hazardous materials, you have, slope issues, you got utilities
reusing things may not
and
have a value
reuse.
proposition,
Yes,
so I
exactly.
understand that.
Yeah, yeah.
But if some of those larger, older timbers could be reused.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool.
That was discussed during the PTF process.
Great. Carl.
Don beat me to the question, so I'm very happy with that. This was the question. I move to direct staff to proceed with planning for demolition of vacant buildings at the community campus.
I will second.
A motion by Counselor Exner and a second by Counselor Smallwood. All those in favor signify by saying aye, or give me a thumbs up. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nays, or a thumbs down. Motion carries. All right, thank you.
Just maybe something to like, when we start talking about this with public, when it, when we are at a place where it moves forward, is just to incorporate, I did the addition, it's about $270,000 in insurance over the last 4 years of having that building closed, but also just the cost of having those buildings heated and all of the money that has gone into those buildings just sitting.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. So Jeff's done a great job of getting communications ready, website, FAQs, all that stuff. And we know there will be interest now, but a lot more probably once there's activity happening.
Oh, especially once there's activity. Yeah. We all know that though.
Yep. All right. With that, report from the city manager.
Yeah, first off, thank you for the great goal setting session on Saturday. I really appreciate it. Feedback from staff was that it was very helpful. They enjoyed, sharing what's going on and hearing about your goals. And so the plan there is we'll bring back draft goals and actions. I think by March 6th, we'll have those ready for at least in draft form. It gets your blessing and feedback on those statements. And then we'll start working on the work plan for putting those goals into actions and executing. I have a meeting this week, Councilor Smallwood, with Bill Conway, who oversees the EMS coordination for Clackamas
Bill?
County.
Yeah, I work with Bill quite a bit.
Yeah, so I'm going to meet with him, I think on Thursday, to talk about AMR level of service and response time.
Good, because he hasn't responded to my emails.
Bring that up.
You didn't sign right.
This came out of a council meeting, so I want to report out. Sarah and I did meet with Clackamas County and with the county administrator, Gary Schmidt there on, I think that was last Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah. I say they were very open. It was a good dialogue. They listened to the concerns and it sounds like they're willing to do something. What to be known, but I think they heard the concerns about paying for rent and kind of the lack of parity there with other unincorporated libraries in the county. So we appreciate it. And there was an apology for the email being a little terse there in response to the concerns. So yeah, so I'm sure I'll keep you informed on that and we'll work through that with the budget too.
A little guilty knowledge when you talk to Bill. He's a great guy, first of all. He's a great guy. But AMR was just awarded the Washington County contract. So they are already not meeting their Clackamas County contract, and now they're expanding their contract into Washington County. So you might ask him how they plan to facilitate that.
Okay.
Yeah. Give me a bigger spoon if you want to stir some more.
Okay.
Man, what a council of poor Jordan. We love that.
Opinion here someplace.
Yeah.
Thank you for responses to block one policies from the comp plan from a few counselors. If you have time over the next day or so, please shoot them over to Kelly. We do appreciate it. Again, with this process with the comp plan, it seems like, there's a lot coming at you sometimes, and here's a bunch of policies that we need your input on, and, kind of built that into the schedule, but I know the turnaround time was a little short there for you. So if you do, please send them back to us as soon as you can. And then Mary, I didn't know if you want to have a conversation about House Bill 2089, but we can wait.
I have it in my notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll wait then.
Are you talking the hotel conversion bill, or which one are you on there?
No, this is the housing needs.
Oh, jump into it if you want.
So we do, I think, yeah, she's still there. So we asked Nellie to weigh in or at least be here to hear this conversation. Mary, you had asked about, what the council wants to, send a letter to the LSC and possibly the governor about home rule authority in particular. But this bill that, is again, putting some, regulations on cities to do more studies. And again, that threshold of 10,000, which Sandy's lumped in, but we have 2 planning staff to do pretty substantial work. And, for us, the work that we're doing right now with the comp plan, buildable lands inventory, the EOA, H&A is actually a good thing because, by accomplishing that as these bills are kind of written means we'll have to do it again, probably for another decade or 8 years. But still, I think the point that the mayor was making is about LLC advocacy for, preserving our home rule authority, especially when it comes to land use in cities like Sandy that you guys have been doing a lot of work in proactive growth management, all the master planning, comp plan, H&As. We're doing everything the state has, asked us. Plus, we've been adding a lot of housing. And I think, as we were talking earlier about strategizing on something, the legislative priority for the council is funding infrastructure. And why do we need funding for infrastructure? Is look at all the growth that we've been adding because of housing. And if we're going to be looking to be adding more, we're in a moratorium right now because we've added so much and our utilities need time to catch up and be invested in, and we need money for that. So as any conversation 2089 or any of the bills about housing, it's a very, very big deal is funding infrastructure to be able to keep up with that growth. And then as another point, like I said, we're 10,000, 13,000 people, small staff, the bill should include funding to be able to complete these, studies and analysis too. So if you want to include that, but, Nellie might want to have, some, just hear your thoughts on how to strategize about this stuff too, given what our
Yeah,
legislative
so let me
priorities
add
are.
a little bit of context. Just one is I did have pretty extensive conversation with Hillsborough Mayor Steve Calloway on Sunday, who's the president of the League of Oregon Cities, about my overall frustration. As you know, Council, I sent out, forwarded on the article from the Oregonian. And my frustration was that it seemed like the League of Oregon Cities, their lobbyist, was just ready to rubber stamp this new plan that really takes our home rule authority and stomps all over it, from the state. And for me, I'll just express that this has been a growing frustration of mine with the League of Oregon Cities. And I must say the executive director has reached out to me, have a conversation. I've not been able to have that yet with her. So they have been proactive in trying to get back to talk about some of our concerns. But, we have continued to see our home rule authority and our local communities get eroded more and more at the state level. And the one thing about the league is, we're all nonpartisan. We all come with, we have the larger urban communities. We have more rural communities. We have all walks of life for part of the League of Oregon Cities. But the one uniting factor is supposed to be standing up for our home rule authority. And so that folks in communities can best represent the communities in which they live and the values and the beliefs and the customs and everything else of our communities. And so I believe that we should look to put together 2 letters, and there'll be some, as George was talking about, with some overlapping points on some of them. But the one to the League of Oregon Cities, I think, is almost a, what are you doing? Our uniting, a big part of our membership, to the League of Oregon Cities is your advocacy for communities and standing up for our home rule authority that's been eroded over years. We call on you to strengthen your position in defending our home rule authority. I know Kathleen has some points that she'd like to bring up in the letter. I thought they were all valid, and the response she had to me and Jordan on that. And then I think another would be more of an advocacy letter to the governor, perhaps to some key legislative members that really highlight what Jordan's talking about, which is if you are going to go this direction, you darn well better be including some money for infrastructure to be able to help these things out.
Or else it actually impedes your production targets. Right. It actually gets in the way.
And let's be clear, I know they're still fleshing out what this legislation is going to look like, but they haven't added the teeth yet.
Right.
And if you think for a moment that they're not going to add teeth to this thing, I've got another story to tell you. And they're trying to fast track it in over the course of the next 60 days to get this thing out. So that would be my proposal, is to have staff start working on 2 letters to wrap Nellie in that. And I honestly, I would like to see myself and Councilor Walker also be 2 counselors that are working with staff to put together a letter that goes in front of the rest of council for approval.
Yeah, I think for me, if we're talking about a letter to the governor and key legislatures, saying that, we have been the 3rd or 4th fastest growing city. So much of the cities, I didn't really know this before, but so many of the people that I meet from different cities, they are landlocked. They don't have a bunch of new land to develop. They're already built out. And so they really are looking at, expanding within the footprint with higher density. We're not, we already, Rocket do a great job with growth, being the 3rd or 4th fastest growing city in the whole state. And so to get, to have to use the same kind of tool to, for both conditions, I think that's just a good point to make about, not one size doesn't fit all. So.
Yeah, go ahead. And then I was going to shoot a question.
Oh, I was just going to say, Estacada is growing fast. I don't know where they're at in the ranking, but is this a situation where you feel it would behoove us to reach out to other cities in our district and
My
or is it a
hope-
little early?
Well,
in
one
that?
is I think that we have a unique story to tell with our moratorium, right, as an example. But my hope would be is once we have a letter that we send out, that we really publicize that we have done this and then call on our contacts in other communities that have similar feelings to do the same. Nellie, I saw you unmuted. I have a, one is, I have a question on as far as because I know it's in the legislature right now. It's what is the best manner to address our letter to send our letter on to?
Well, thank you. I appreciate this. Thanks for having me. There's a lot of politics in play right now. And honestly, the priority of session, as we all know, is housing. And we've got a new speaker, a new Senate president, a new governor. There's a lot going on right now. And so everything is in flux. My hesitation on this is that the only opposition that is currently out there is from basically, has no teeth. And now, of course, my dog is going to bark, so I apologize in advance if that happens. It's par for the course. But, coming out against this bill, it's pretty much greased and skidded to pass. I'm not saying that it's great for you guys and I will do whatever you would like to do, but I'm just saying politically, it's not great to come out against this, especially when it's likely going to pass and it's got a ton of support behind it. So there are a handful of people that have been neutral. And so I know it's probably not what you all want to hear. I apologize. Let me grab a dog treat to make her. I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
So I think maybe a distinction is, well, one, it's already gone through one committee with testimony is closed and everything. It's how fast this bill is moving, right? They're trying to omnibus this thing, right?
Yeah.
And get it through in 30 days. But one of the strategies made, where does this letter go, right? If it's like not necessarily like this bill, but all these bills that are putting more pressure, more requirements and establishing targets, all these things on cities that, like Sandy, that to Councilor Walker's point, have been achieving,
Right.
So really, this would be my response because, and Nellie's right. So, but it comes down to prioritization of council and what we want our voice to be, right? And so we do have a major ask in front of the legislature, right? And so that is something that, I think Nellie's, without saying, is kind of alluding to, right? That, everything we do impacts other things, right? So there is, I will say I do want to pound our chest a little bit with the League of Oregon Cities.
We don't lose anything.
100%. I think that's an important stance that we take. That said, we've all sat here together and just went through House Bills 2001 to 2003. And that you wrote it away at our ability of growth and the way we can control it. It is something that we continually are talking about as a council and complaining about. But it comes down to picking your battles. And is this a battle that we want to take when we know that we have a major ask? And maybe this, and I'm not trying to, because I don't know. I think it may be, but it is something that, we need to think through, what is a priority to this council, knowing that one very much could, and also maybe not, but very much could impact the other.
Right. We have a lot to lose.
We do, but I mean, seriously, if writing a letter, against a House bill that is not going to be favorable for this community and the people who live here is going to affect our ability to get money from the legislature, I think says more than it doesn't. But I feel like we owe it as elected officials to the people in this community to write a letter in opposition.
And it can be, you can write a letter knowing you're going to lose.
Absolutely.
That isn't I'm going to die on my sword on this letter.
No.
And maybe that's the appropriate response.
It's
There's
just a letter.
issues that we see, we should look at them,
Yeah.
Carl?
Yeah. My involvement in the government affairs with the East Metro realtors is that this one is very highly supported by them. They're part of the greased skids that is going on.
Build, baby, build.
Yeah, just fast and as furious as they can, not recognizing that there are some cities like ours in particular who have a fair amount of growth ground that we can push out on. And that really, once we get past our moratorium, I think we're going to bounce back right up into being the fourth, fifth fastest growing city in the state again because of our location, our facilities, all the things that we're building and going through. I just think that we will be bouncing back up, and there will be some limitations with this bill if it gets, we call it teeth. I call it kicking us out from underneath our feet. I think it's important though that we put our word out there. I don't think it'll hurt anything.
I'm not arguing, sorry to interrupt, but I'm certainly not arguing that fact. I think every point that you have all brought up is absolutely accurate. My only comment is that, you know, this bill is going through Ways and Means. It has a subsequent referral to Ways and Means, which is where the Christmas tree bill goes through, which is where you're going to get your money. So literally every legislator is going to see your comment on a bill that's going to go through. And it has an effect.
I totally agree, but here's the deal, is everybody keeps their mouth shut so that they can get money out of the Christmas tree bill. And so then they're able to just year after year after year erode on our home rule authority. And eventually somebody's got to stand up and try to get other communities to stand up as well.
I think a
and say
governor
that-
candidate should.
That this is enough.
Yeah, but I don't think it's gonna
Governor
happen. This one is going through so fast.
Yeah.
From my corner, I didn't respond to your letter, Mayor, because I thought you were gonna bring it up tonight and kick it around. But I think it's a done deal. I just don't see us being able to affect it very much. Maybe it'll be a little bit of detraction on our ask for the infrastructure. I am not so sure. I sure don't want to hurt that though.
Sure.
understand.
Yeah,
So I don't
I see
wanna-
that.
If
And I
there's
hear what
even
you're saying,
a few
Nellie.
thousands of dollars.
Oh, I
that we
get it.
might
I totally
get
hear
cut
you.
out.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's your role to
Yep.
bring this up, Nellie.
Yeah,
We
you're
really
you're
appreciate
a
that.
consultant.
Yeah.
That's, yep.
I think there's, you know, ways to kind of deliver it that, you know, we understand this is going to go through, but we are concerned about, you know, death by 1,000 cuts of this, you know, constant unfunded mandates, this, you know, one size fits all approach.
Which is never good policy.
Yeah, you know, and that, and how that affects our ability to meet our collective needs for middle housing and things like that. I think they can be worded in a way that doesn't, you know, totally kick them under the, you know, try to shortchange us on our funding strategy, but also point out that, you know, there's some concerns here that, you know, this is, it's one after another and consecutively, it just is. You know, the thing that I find amazing is that the public still has not caught on to all this stuff yet. They have not. There's not been articles in the paper.
It's too fast.
Well, and it's like, but they don't understand all these bills, what that actually means in their neighborhoods, in the town of Sandy. You know, the things that I heard when I was out running for election was, you know, developers should be paying for their own infrastructure. And the idea that, you know, the legislature wants to reduce the system development charges and basically put those charges on existing residents, everybody, you know, no matter the political alignment, disagrees with that. And so that's kind of where I don't, if there's a way to kind of somehow start making the realities of what these bills actually mean for people in their towns, I think there'd be a groundswell of folks.
Point of order.
So let's just hold on, Chris, I do see your hand up. I'm going to recognize Counselor Hokinson and then I'll go to Counselor Mate.
All right, first of all, this should have been an agenda item, obviously, because it's not, you know, we're in that point of the meeting, we should be wrapping up. Second of all, we pay Nellie and people like her a lot of money to advise us. We do have a lot of money in that Christmas tree or whatever you want to refer to it as. And we have a lot to lose versus having to take on the expenses of 1 or 2 extra planners or whatever it is. I think the dollars don't make sense. So I'm more inclined to listen to Nellie in this one, even though politically I agree with everything that's been said.
And just as far as the point of order goes, council was notified more than 24 hours that this would be brought up at this meeting. This is the portion in which councilors bring up points like this. And I've seen every councilor bring up points like this during this just instigated a response.
Yeah, but maybe we table it to a fuller discussion.
I don't think we have time.
Yeah.
Councilor Mayton.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I concur with what Councilor Walker said. Actually, I think words do matter, and I think the right words matter most of all. I think we could write a letter to anybody saying that we're not in support of this without indicating our opposition to it, and remaining neutral. And I think that Nellie said that had already been done. I also, hear your recommendation, Nellie. But Mayor, I as naive as I am sometimes, I also don't like to be strong-armed into positions and have a defender mode for myself and my community. And I think we have a chance to write a letter saying that we don't like, without saying we don't support or oppose in either way. It sits in the middle ground. So I think words matter, and the right words matter most of all. And if the staff writes the letter, it comes back to the council for a review, we'll know it before it's ever sent. But I think the key here is to do that quickly, because it's moving like a freight train through butter, and we got to get in front of it.
If I might just add, we won't be able to get on public record because the last public hearing was on the 16th, and you have to get public testimony in 24 hours after. But we can send to the committee if that is what council would like. So just so you know, that's kind of where we're at. There will probably be another public hearing, but.
Well, since it's being fast tracked, why don't we just send it to where it's going to end up? And that way, not every committee member sees it. No, you send it to the governor. And that way, then it's not reviewed to every single member on the committee who's going to be going through it.
I also wonder if I'm sure there's several other communities that are in our same position. Maybe not so much on the west, but I suspect over in the east side, there's got to be cities that were in the same intensity of the thought, and maybe we could put together something that would be more well represented with numbers rather than just ourselves. But I'm also inclined to go with Nettie's suggestion. If you want to send something, I'm sure that we can find a way to say politely what we don't like about it without exposing ourselves to rejection on the other.
When's our next council meeting?
March 6th.
2 weeks. So let's get working on a letter hearing out Chris's and Kathleen's comments about words mattering and all that good jazz. And let's work maybe a more strongly worded one about the advocacy efforts to the League of Oregon Cities.
Yes.
And let's distribute that, first to Councilor Walker and me for kind of a quick review, and then to the rest of council to just see what, but remember, council, when you review this letter, to give your thoughts back individually to Jeff and Jordan. And I'm sure I include Nellie on that as well. But not to the council in the entirety.
If I may, I mean, for your money ask, if really this $14.4 million is your number one thing, my last little plug is just going to be, I'm not saying you need to be best friends with LOC, but they can support us in getting our ask through. It's not necessarily a group that we want to upset. I know. You don't want to hear this. I know these are all things you don't want to hear, but it's a group that can only benefit us.
We're always going to be after some sort of money, and eventually, I mean, are we going to stand up for our community? Or are we just going to sit here and complain every time that this stuff is pummeled on us?
The same thing. We're not threatening to leave LOC.
No, there's no talk about leaving LOC.
Get back to your charter. Get back to your
No,
roots.
I mean, goodness knows that the mayor of Beaverton's pretty vocal with LOC.
Yeah.
So I think we can be too.
But keep reminding us, Nellie.
Keep telling us though, Nellie. Keep telling us.
That.
Yeah.
I gotta push back a little bit, but yeah.
Therefore, the last didn't.
Ultimately, I listen to you and you call the shots. So I will do as you wish, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Please, we really do. We really do.
Yes.
Thank you for that. That we have strong personalities on here. We really, believe it or not, actually enjoy having a strong personality come back at us. So thank you very much. So, yeah.
Mayor, just quickly,
Yeah.
was the consensus to address the letter to the governor rather than the committee?
Okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, sure. All right.
Thank you.
Is that your report?
That's my report.
All right. Counselor Hokinson.
Thanks. I do recommend that items like that we know about in advance, even a late addition to the agenda, just so everyone here knows what we're hitting. So, but good discussion. All right, I really wanted to thank Skaters, Sandy, for sticking around. Really appreciate what you came, what you said, and more importantly, what you're willing and already standing up in terms of this long-term support, this entity to basically keep whatever investment we make, preserve it, and make sure that it achieves all those objectives. I love that. I think this is great. I also wanted to, we talked when we went to Bend, so we talked about potential sponsorship opportunities and looking for that. I want to make sure, we didn't talk about that in these proposals, but I want to make sure that we explore that in a tasteful sort of way. You know, I don't want to turn Carl's art project into a bunch of billboards, but
Thank you.
but some sort of sponsorship opportunities where we can raise some additional money. And then for the Skaters of Sandy, you bring up a real interesting point about the opportunity for tourism oriented, people stopping, coming. And we need to hear more and understand that better. So the more you can help us make the case that this will be a real draw and bring people in, which translates into dollars to local businesses, whether it's the McDonald's or Joe's Donuts or whatever, the more opportunity we have to go after the money from urban renewal to fund maybe bigger, maybe better, you know, those kinds of things. So help us help you, I guess, in that regard.
Yeah, we'll definitely be talking more about this and we'll reach out to you all.
And I'm assuming your point person is through Rochelle still, and
Yeah.
rather than have to deal with it all individually, but we're
It's very
interested.
common in skateboarding culture that there are several big companies who do sponsor various skate spots. And, it just really depends on what they're like.
Yeah, sure.
But there are opportunities. I think also as a citizen group as opposed to the city, there will be grants that we can go after. the private citizens.
I'd love to see you explore even a 501c at some point in time, so that contributions and fundraising and things could be collected to support longer term events and so forth. So anyway, that's my feedback for you guys. Thank you again for coming.
Thanks a lot.
And I think that's all I wanted to talk about. All right, thanks.
I guess I will also want to throw my words into the skateboard folks who just brought their ideas and thoughts up. That's just really great. I really appreciate that. It affects me in terms of what I think about what's going to happen out there behind the Cedar Ridge properties, whatever we call it, the barn number 2. So there's got to be a way to call that something.
We'll brainstorm it.
than
We'll get a good
bunker
name. Yeah.
buildings. Yeah. So anyway, I did attend for the first time the fire board last week, and it was an interesting time. I also had probably an hour and a half conversation with the chief, Phil, and had some pretty frank conversations with him. I'm going to keep some of the real frank stuff to myself, but it's basically this IGA between the Clackamas Fire District and the City of Sandy Fire Districts. I think it's a train mostly passed by. I think it's already there. I think the Clackamas, the Sandy Fire has already approved the IGA from their viewpoint and has given it now to the Clackamas. And I think they've only got a week or two to look at it. And it sounded like, from what I heard last week, they didn't have a whole lot of problems with it. So it's probably coming to the point where it's going to happen. I did ask him to start thinking about what happens if this thing falls apart. The IGA is only a 5 to 7 year process. One of the things that I was not able to do was to get a copy of this IGA. They won't give that to me until they have a chance to have both sides pretty much agree to it. So they said they would give it to me, which means to the council as soon as possible.
Well, can't you can do a FOIA request on that?
Sure, but it's going to take a while. By the time I ask for it and get it put out, it'll be signed. But I did ask from both sides. I thought pretty strongly, but I don't think it's going to happen until they get that Clackamas
They
side
vote Monday
signed.
night.
It was interesting, the conversation, just as a comment about how and what it entailed at the fire board meeting was almost non-existent. It's pretty quiet. Not like some of our conversations, which has a lot of agreements, and spilling out onto the table about what is or is not good about it. It was interesting that that was taken in that format. One of the things I saw was the good, and I'm trying to find a way to say that, is that if indeed it does fall apart in 5 to 7 years, there will be a time for us to look at how that might get put back into the city of Sandy. You know, something like this, though, I'll suspect it will be very difficult to unwind it. We'll see how that one goes together. And what would happen, what would be the city's responsibility in making sure that we keep our coverage for different kinds of coverage, where the machines, where the engines all land up, where the people all land up. But if the way it looks like from just the conversation I've heard from Phil Schneider and some others, the volunteers are going to Clackamas or to Estacada. The engines are going to end up that way, although we will get access to Clackamas. I think it's going to make, according to some of the conversations I've had, it will make some additional equipment available, which is, according to the chief, make a difference in our insurance for the commercial folks. It supposedly will look at bringing us down one insurance level. That's the ISO rating, and I'm not sure what the ISO rating stands for, but I know it makes, it makes a difference in how much you pay for premiums. So his thought was that it will make this happen one level down, which means less premiums. So I think that's pretty much what I heard there. I'll get you a copy of the IGA as soon as I can get a chance to get my hands on it. My guess is it will show up as soon as the Clackamas folks sign it. It'll be a done deal. There are 3 renewals and a vacant seat coming up this spring. May 16th is the deadline to get your, that's the vote date.
No, it has to be in by May 16th or March 16th.
March 16th is for getting your name into
Yep.
the brochures.
For the file date. It's
May
only 10
16th is the
bucks.
elections.
Yeah.
So that gives 4 of the 5 positions are kind of open. So if this is not something that folks think is the best, maybe there's a chance to influence some things, but it's in May. So school board members as well being voted at that time. So keep that in mind. Let's see. If this thing does go into effect, I'm going to ask a question about how our representation is for the IGA for us. Who are we going to talk to? If Phil Snyder's position, chief's position is gone, I'm going to start asking the questions about who do we contact, who's the person, especially for the Urban Renewal Board. So that's kind of where that is. I'm struggling enough with this one. One thing that this is the time of the year, I'm going to move on to something more upbeat and happy, in that this is the kind of year that you think, part of the year that you start thinking about how your gardens are going to look like. I'm a big advocate for diversity, biodiversity, as well as for the bees, pollinators, butterflies, and all the rest. If you've got any opportunity to put your garden, your backyard into some sort of change for the native plants, this is the time to buy those seeds and get started for the springtime grow up, and just let's do some of that kind of stuff. It's also good for, we're always thinking about how do those water balances happen in the city. Anytime you can put something into a native plant species, they take less water than some of these other plants that we try to plant that are pretty but swallow up a bunch of water. And it's a way to save water. So I'm an advocate for that. We heard a little bit about, again, how low the stormwater fee is. My goodness, we need to get some work, some movement on getting our stormwater fees increased. We looked at how we had to raise our sewer water fees so drastically because we had to wait, or did wait until kind of the last moment. Let's not do that with our stormwater. Let's try to figure out a way to get those fees raised so we can start talking about how we're going to make the master plan work, how we're going to start making those investments, so we don't end up having to raise our rates after having raised them so high for the sewer water. So with that, I'm not even going to mention the art committee because it's I'm still looking for a great introduction for getting the members up and running, and I'm sure we'll be talking about that soon, right?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I won't mention. I'm done.
Kathleen.
Hi, thanks to the skate park folks. You guys, it was great to meet you and hear what you had to say. I'm really excited about where we're going to end up. And I think it's wonderful that you guys have organized to advocate for the folks in our town. I think, like, building on what these guys said, we do need to get some information on lessons learned, experiences from other towns that have built pump tracks on use levels and skate parks, and the tourism and economic opportunities that both of those uses bring to those communities. You know, it's sort of like in Mining Park, how we're really trying to, you know, pump up Mining Park use, concerts and the Christmas lights and all that. Those things do bring in good tourism opportunities for our town. I'm really excited to be focusing on project priorities for the urban renewal. I think that's been something that, you know, we've needed to do for a while. So making some time to do that, I think is great. I hope that we can, you know, once we have our economic development plan done, I hope we can kind of do some better outreach and recruitment for funding for development opportunities out there to kind of help funnel into the urban renewal plan. We did this on a consent agenda item. The two new members of our planning commission are Christina Ramsier and Noah Myra. Christina has been a resident in Sandy for over 25 years and is very interested in Sandy's growth. Noah has been here for, I think, at least 5 years, and he has experience working with Gresham in their planning department. And so he's fairly familiar with the process. So we welcome both of those members to our planning commission. I think they're going to be, you know, a great addition. Lastly, thanks to the mayor for the well-worded email to the county on behalf of the Hoodland Library rent issue. That seemed to have kind of broken a log jam, and I think the library board that the liaison will be thrilled to hear the news that there's some progress being made on that front. So thank you.
Thank you. As George says, I don't lack being correct. Lori.
Well, I mean, I can't obviously not thank you guys for coming because everybody else has, but no, thanks honestly for coming in. Really appreciate your input. I'm super excited, you know, about some partnerships that and some great opportunities that we'll have with this park. So excited to work with you guys. There was something else I was gonna add. Oh, thanks to Dawn for including me with the legacy stuff. Obviously, I have a passion for healthcare and
the closing of that birthing center is going to be really, really detrimental to all of East County. So if there's anything that we can do to have some input on that not transpiring, we definitely need to do that.
Lastly, for me, I'm speaking on homeless, maybe tomorrow if it doesn't get snow canceled, for the chamber, during their chamber lunch. So looking forward to that and educating some people maybe a little bit on some things they don't know and some of the movement that council has done to help with our codes. Other than that,
Where's your lunch at?
at the fire annex, because I just can't get away from work. So it is easy, so I'm working tomorrow, so all I gotta do is change clothes and walk across the street.
Just a
So
reminder, they follow the Oregon Trail School District.
yes, she told me. So anyway, so that's all I got.
Perfect.
You're all welcome to come.
Yes.
Join us. Presentation starts at noon. Doors are 11:30.
All right, thank you.
Well, I won't be remiss. I too want to thank Michael, Adam, Scott, and Michael, and the Skaters of Sandy for presenting. I've had a chance to do a little bit of research too, and I think we should all take a trip to the Caymans and go visit the Black Pearl. It's a 52,000 square foot skate park in the Caymans. It's supposedly the world's largest outdoor, but I'm not an expert on that, but I heard somebody say, how big should it be? So there's one. I'd also like to thank Don for your diligence on the legacy. I know I haven't been an active participant with that. I've been quite busy on the personal side, but I have been tracking the work you've been doing, and I really appreciate you standing up for the community on that side of the house. Lastly, now that we've approved the last two planning commissioners, next Monday will be the first full planning commission with all the commissioners in place. I'll be attending that. And then on Wednesday will be my first economic development committee. I think it's the first meeting of the year that I've been invited to. So I'll bring an update back on March 6th. So other than that, that's the end of my update.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. Nelly's right.
Sometimes you have to stew on stuff. Don't you?
You're admitting the beat?
No, so let's have a letter of neutrality that reinforces our need for the state to step up for infrastructure dollars if they're going to do stuff like this. Yeah. And let's have a more watered down letter to the League of Oregon Cities, but that reinforces our need for them to stand up for home rule authority.
He's just gotta think
Her
about it
jaw's
for a
all the way on the floor right now.
Boy, I just see all kinds of conflict of emotion.
Is that okay, Nelly?
I like the sound of that. I think that I like the watered down and not the full throttle approach. So thank you.
Yes.
Put it on scented paper.
And
Yeah.
Thanks again, Nelly, for your.
Scented paper. Yes, yeah, I like that, Kathleen.
Anyway, I really appreciate all of you, and I will definitely always follow your lead, but I appreciate you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it. These people make me so mad though, you guys.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay. Moving forward. So on the community campus, well, one, thank you guys so much. And the truth is if you don't stand up and get involved, it doesn't happen.
Yep.
Right. And I hear that this isn't going to be your first and only time, and please don't let it be. You know, we really do look forward to your engagement. And you know, I don't know where this totally ends up. I don't think any of us do. But know that you're going to be heard throughout the process and reached out to, and we'll do our part to, you know, hopefully you're satisfied with the end result. But even if somewhere it goes haywire down the way, just know that we're going to really work hard to listen to everything that you guys have to say and engage in the process. So I think that a lot of movement on a lot of discussions about the community campus tonight, very exciting stuff. I think that, you know, the decision on some of the demolition stuff at the same time of what's happening, you know, in the park improvements is really going to put that park on display. And you know, as I mentioned kind of in the sidebar, I think it's going to turn, as people are visiting that park, they're going to look up that hill and they're going to say, what is that building? And what are the possibilities of that building that overlook, this park? And I think that there is still some, there's some exciting second and third phases, as we really kind of go down this adventure together. And then the final note is, I would like for staff, for Kelly in particular, to be able to work with our attorney on just looking at some of our options around protecting our local control on, the project turnkey possibilities, especially with the legislation that Kelly sent around to council. And I didn't want to start spending attorney time without, having, kind of council nod around. That would be okay to do. Okay. All right. Perfect. Well, with that, Jordan took my letter conversation, and you know what? I'm glad he did, because it gave me a chance to sit here and stew a little bit. And so just, thank you everybody for the conversation. I hope you realize that I am able to be rocked off of my position, at least a little bit. And just, yeah, thank you for the dialogue tonight. Great meeting. So with that, I'll adjourn. Thank you.